Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, and with me back again, by popular demand, Jordan DiFigio. Jordan, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great now. I'm loving that wall behind you. Very Steelers, very Penguins, very
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. And
it's a
one of the
wild ride.
And you're smart too, because a lot of people don't utilize their hats as being able to be hang up on your walls. And I always do that just like a thumbtack and hang them on the thumbtack.
Yep,
I'm not sure what you use.
that's exactly what I use. Just a little push pin,
Yep.
and they're excellent decor. They take
Yes.
up space. They
Yeah,
they
definitely
really
are.
accent the color of the paint on my wall.
And Steeler Nation, just want to quickly go over our sponsor. They're doing a 21 days of Christmas here. And as you can see, today they are giving away a Juju Smith-Schuster autographed mini helmet. So all you have to do is jump on at Total Sports ENT and retweet it, and you're entered for a chance to win. They're giving away stuff every day. During the games, they give away stuff they have deals every quarter, don't give away stuff every quarter. But of course, they give something away each win, and this time we've fell outside of that ability to be able to see what they're giving away this time. But at least every day they have this going on, and 45% off of everything on their online store, and that is tseshop.com. So roll on over there if you guys want to find some great gifts here for the holidays. And see if I can find my other window. So
They disappear.
I know, right? So we're 11-0 now, and the Ravens officially cannot win the division. And we looked terrible. Though it was our sixth sweep of the Ravens in their history of us playing them together since '97. Third for Tomlin, and the first time since we've done it since 17. So how did that game feel to you watching once we finally got around to being able to watch the game here, Jordan?
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what, I'm trying not to be too bitter about it, because if the game had happened on Thanksgiving, I would have been there. But because they changed it to friends and family only at Heinz Field, then that kind of ruined those plans for me. But it was honestly kind of exactly what I was expecting.
Mhm.
It was messy on both sides, and
Yes.
that was kind of, warranted on Baltimore's end, because they were playing with so many second and third string guys on offense. And so I will say, while I was watching the game, I was frustrated, angry, annoyed, stressed, everything, because
All of the above.
all of the above, because I just kept thinking we should be killing this team right now. Why are we not racking up points? However, in the days that have followed, the more I've thought about it, the more that I've kind of rewatched the highlights and stuff.
Yeah.
We were just a handful of dropped passes
Yeah.
away from really having a blowout. One.
Yes.
Two, we also were dealing with injuries, because Stephon Tuitt was out on the COVID reserve list, and so was James Conner, and we had our own things that we were dealing with. Also, it was just a really freaking weird scenario altogether to have that large of a gap in between games, to be playing at 3:40 on a Wednesday. So I've kind of talked myself off the ledge a little bit, and now I'm just happy that we won and that we're 11-0 and we can kind of move on from this whole mess.
And I'm just jumping right here because for some reason the podcast didn't go through, or the live broadcast didn't go through yet for Facebook. So I'm putting this up quickly. Q&A. And I'm just launching this live, and hopefully it goes this time. This time it looks like it's running through. Okay, good. Now we're live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. Awesome. You only just missed our sponsor for Total Sports Enterprises and the initial intro, but welcome with us. We have the lovely Jordan DiFigio with us instead of Hunter. Hunter can't be here. He's also runs his own company from home, so he's got to interview clients and meet with clients. And every once in a while, he can't make our games, but we're talking the Ravens games. We were a little disappointed with the way that worked out, though. I mean, Ben still worked well. He still
Mm-hmm.
had, as good as a game as he could have had, even with so many drops. I went through and I counted the drops. I counted 3 for Deontay, 2 for Chase, and 2 for Ebron. The one was defended
Okay.
that Chase was there. So, like, I don't really push that as a big drop on him. But still, I mean, but that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right there just off the bat
And
out of
how
his
many of those were
incompletion.
in the red zone?
Oh gosh, they're back to backs on the first time they were down there in the red zone. Jordan, you're right about that.
Uh,
So only managing one sack, but 51. Everybody's like, he threw the ball 51 times. They can't win the ball throwing the ball 51 times. It's like, honestly, they can. I mean,
they
Steeler
did.
fans, we have to now start getting used to. We are a run and shoot team.
Mm-hmm.
We are not going to run the football effectively. It looks like we can still win football games without running it effectively. The Patriots have shown that you don't need a running game to win multiple championships. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to have a running game to balance enough. And Steelers do have that. They're still making a couple plays here for first downs, even though
Mm-hmm.
Snell like ripped off that one that would look like it was 3rd and 3, I think, and they gave it to him. It looked like he had no chance and bounced it outside and ended
Yeah.
up picking up the first down. So and they still ended up making that first down at the end of the game to ice the game as well. So they're running the ball well enough. Their ball control offense is their running game. I mean,
Yeah.
and the only thing that's hurting it now is dropping passes. So if they clean that up, which I'm sure they can, I mean, it's just such a weird day. Like, I saw a couple of tweets that I thought were hilarious too. It's you see all the Steelers dropping passes, and the tweet goes out, well, they're not used to seeing Ben throw footballs on Wednesdays, because as all Steeler fans know, Wednesday is Ben's day off. He doesn't throw to
Yep.
anybody on Wednesday. They made him play a football game on a Wednesday when he never normally throws the ball anyway. So love to
Yeah.
see at least I mean, it was just such a weird way to watch a game. I mean, it's 3:40 in the afternoon. I mean, I wake up in the morning. I'm excited to watch the game. Obviously, like NFL Network, that's all they're talking about is the Ravens
Mm-hmm.
Steelers game. There's so much news coming out on the COVID, who's going to show up, who's not, and then Pouncey coming off and not being able to play. And, their running backs ended up not clearing COVID yet, so they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
play. And so it made for a lot of drama throughout the day. But starting that game at 3:40, I'm sitting there like, I'm excited. I'm watching the game, but it just felt weird. It almost felt like a Sunday, but not a Sunday, because I expected
Yeah.
another game to be on either before it or after it. It was just such a weird way to watch a football game. And sure, Steeler Nation, I don't know how you feel about it too, but that was a weird way for that. And the first time I've ever experienced, an afternoon game. I felt badly too for our working Steeler Nation friends and family that are, that are workers that can't take off and had to watch it either on delay, hopefully if they could, or not watch it at all. I had some friends that say they couldn't even see it at all
Oh,
because they had no
dang.
way of recording it. And my heart goes out to them, because that's not what the NFL is for. The NFL is for us to have a relief from all this COVID craziness going on and quarantining and just give us a chance to root on our team that we love to death.
Yeah, it was disorienting for sure. So if it felt that weird and off for us just watching the game, it had to have felt just so bizarre for the guys who were playing in it. So
Yeah.
I honestly could even attribute a lot of the miscues and the dropped passes to just that overall blanket of weirdness that
Yeah.
covered the whole afternoon. It was weird.
And still, I have to give kudos to John Harbaugh, at least for getting his players ready to
Yeah.
play. That was something what I didn't think that they were going to have a chance, because they were missing both of their starting centers and their starting long snapper. So they
Mm,
had a long snapper that's never snapped in the NFL and a center that's never snapped in the NFL starting in this game. And they did relatively well. I didn't see any
yeah.
issues with the center exchanges. The one was high on one of the kicks. I don't remember if the extra point or if it was the field goal, but the holder did a good job of getting that one down. But yeah, the only exchange that was the issue was the quarterback running back exchange on the read option that
Mhm.
RG3 put on the ground, and Vince Williams got his easiest
Yep.
fumble recovery of his career.
It was just gifted to him right there. Here you go.
Yeah, so Snell still ended up with 60 yards, not an incredible performance, but not horrible. What we've been seeing is these 30-yard performances. So I was happy with the way that and Tomlin even mentioned that Benny Snell did a great job with what he was given. He was making plays despite what the offensive line was doing and what the Ravens were doing also with the gap blitzes. So, hats off to Snell for tough yards in a tough game, in a tough situation. And today we have a new leading receiver for the game. Eric Ebron is the first time he's led the team in receiving for the game. He had 7 catches for 54 yards. Chase really close, 6 for 52. Deontay 8 for 46, and then Juju Smith-Schuster 8 receptions, only 37 yards. But they were all great needed receptions and an excellent touchdown out of one of those 8.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter what your numbers are in terms of yardage. If you can make those splash plays and just fight for yards when they count and get really hard-nosed and also score, you're going to have yourself a great game and have a huge impact on it.
And Juju scored his 6th touchdown this game. He has now doubled the amount of touchdowns he scored last year. People still don't want to give Ben credit for, being a good quarterback, but heck, he's got twice the amount of touchdowns that he had last year. We've got another guy that's a rookie with 10 touchdowns already. So, this is just a phenomenal outpouring of what they're able to do with Ben back. Benny Snell also had 3 receptions for 33 yards. So you combine his total yardage, he's close to 100 yards with 93 yards in his contributions. So that kind of goes to show the kind of game he had. Washington, 2 big catches, the one being the biggest of the game to ice the game. And even Anthony McFarland had a nice catch and run for 17 yards on a screen. And Ray with another catch and run for 8 yards. So it was a nice game, getting it around to everybody on the field.
Very evenly distributed, which, again, I feel like we talked about it last week, but it's hard to defend against an offense where every guy is able to contribute in that way, because if double team one guy, it just opens up the field for the rest of them. It's really difficult to shut down an offense with that many weapons.
Yeah. And red zone efficiency was down. Usually we're around 68%. We were 1 for 4 in this game. Third downs did all right. 6 for 14, not great, but not horrible, especially since we held the Ravens to 3 for 13. The 0 for 2 on the 4th downs, those were tough situations. So there's a short yardage situations. You're expecting at least to pick up one of them. Unfortunately, we didn't pick up either. And they picked up their 4th down. So it kind of extended the game, made it a little closer. But Steelers still own the time of possession in that game, 33.5 minutes to 26.5. And they're doing it with pass attack. They're not doing it with running at all.
Yeah, they've really found a way somehow to control the clock. And you saw that at the very end of the first half with the miscommunication on Baltimore's end and the total breakdown of play calling, where we were able to just kind of get even not having possession of the ball, we were controlling the clock, and you just love to see it.
Yeah. Though I will give kudos to the offensive line. They held Ben without a sack now for 4 straight games, which is a new record for the Steelers. Their record previously before this run was 2 games in a row not being sacked. Now Ben has gone 4 games without being sacked. So they're going to have a tougher time, I know, against Washington this upcoming week, but at least to do something that they haven't done, pairing that with the incredible job they're doing on defense, they're doing some interesting stuff. Liam, you have a question there asking if the Steelers can contain him. Let me know who you're asking who they can contain, and I'll answer that question for you. And Steelers, like we're saying, too, they're number 2 in the NFL in time of possession. So only one team are ahead of the Steelers, and the Titans are 4 minutes behind the Steelers, and have the huge, awesome running game with King Henry, and that's huge. A 4-minute difference in time of possession throughout 11 games is a huge amount of time difference in time of possession. It's going to show you that the Steelers are still possessing the football without a running game. I mean, essentially, we are a run and shoot, pass, ball control offense through the air. And it's I've never seen it. Steeler fans, I know it feels a little unsettling to watch, but it is working.
It is. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they do tend to stick to the kind of chip shot type throws. They're not always airing it out down the field, because that I think is what people associate with
Yeah.
the lack of time of possession control, if you're just constantly bombing the football. But they do a lot of kind of short throw, grind away, really wear down on the defense, which is
Yeah.
in some senses kind of similar to a running game where you're trying to just wear down that front seven of the defense. And it would be nice if the run game could click a little bit more than it
Yeah.
has been, but we haven't needed it to, because we've still held onto the ball and found a way to really effectively utilize the passing game.
And teams' job is normally to make an offense one-dimensional. And
Mm-hmm.
usually what that means is take away the run and force them to pass and beat them with your pass rush because they can't run the ball. Steelers are already going into games knowing their offense is one-dimensional, and teams still can't stop it. You've got teams like Tennessee and you've got teams like Baltimore, which are built to beat teams like this. Their pass rush didn't get to Ben this past game, albeit, they didn't have Judon. Judon, I thought, was their best pass rusher who was sitting out today, or for the game on Wednesday. But, still, they still ran some nice blitzes. They were still getting good pressure. Hausner had a problem there early on in the game where he just didn't block anybody on the one play, and they kind of jailbreaked in there. But, it's still to Ben's ability to getting that ball out faster than anyone else in the league. And this is the guy that always held on to the football way too long. Ben's always getting killed. It's tough to bring down. He's making that play happen, but no, he's getting that ball out. Bang,
he is,
bang,
and it's
bang.
really working for him. So just keep it up, Ben. Seriously.
And the Ravens too, their defensive lineup, their secondary was healthy. They have the best secondary to match up against our defenders, because all of their guys can play man tight, and we have very talented receivers. Our guys are going to get open, but it makes it for a tougher route when they're playing man tight and hitting these receivers off the line. And so I don't see another team being able to do what the Ravens do with enough talent in their secondary as the Ravens have, because the Ravens are the opposite of us. They can draft like cornerbacks, no problem. They find them everywhere in the draft. Whereas we can pick up wide receivers, no problem. We find them everywhere in the draft. And I'm starting to think maybe it's because we have Ben Roethlisberger. I mean,
I have a feeling that's a big part of it.
I mean, we have a nice skill set of the receivers that we have, but Ben Roethlisberger being able to distribute to those skilled guys is amazing. And let's move to the defensive side of the ball. I mean, we got some great things occurring. This is in the past 18 games where the Steelers have a defensive touchdown. Steelers are 18-0 now. They haven't let up. They've been letting up less than 20 points for now their fourth straight game. And there's been 61 turnovers since 2019, which is number 1 in the NFL. And our favorite stat, they are now still number 2 in the NFL all time for a sack every game for 68 straight games, looking to tie Tampa Bay when Tomlin coached the defensive backs on that team.
Wow.
With the Washington, with 1 sack, they will tie that Tampa Bay team of having a sack in 69 consecutive games for the number 1 record in the NFL.
Oh, let's do it. I've been keeping an eye on that stat all season. I typically don't hone in on one particular thing, but ever since they first said that streak that we had going, they mentioned it. I was like, oh my goodness, we need to keep it going, please. This is awesome. And they have all season. They've been in quarterbacks' faces. It's awesome.
And you got to put it into context, 69 games, that's over 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Over 4 seasons, they'd have a sack in every game. That is just, it's like the hitting rule when you have consecutive games with a hit in Major League Baseball. It's that kind of longevity stat. And it's right around the same number, right around 46 or something. So, so kudos to the Steelers for keeping up that level of consistency, even for having teams that were not great defensively starting off. I remember that they were only good at rushing the passer. The secondary was not as good. And then, of course, last year where the defense had to make the plays to help us win games. It's been
Yeah.
a really nice longevity stat that a lot of different Steelers, both that have been on our team previously and that are currently on, can really hang their hat on if that's something that we'd be able to get one more sack against Washington,
Mhm.
and they have it. And speaking of sacks, now Watt leads the league in sacks with 2 more in that game. Hayward adding a sack, 8 TFLs. Watt had 3, Bud had 2. Unfortunately, now we've lost Bud for the season. What are your thoughts, Jordan, on Bud going down and his contributions to this team?
Well, he was having a career year.
Yeah,
So
he was.
he uh, not to downplay the loss of Bud Dupree, because that's huge. That's huge for the Steelers to lose a player of that caliber, especially after losing Devin Bush. So the speed that those guys have and just that raw athleticism, it's not something that you can recreate in other people. However, I think that this year we've seen more than ever before these guys on this team, they're made up of players who are ready to go
Yeah.
and ready to have their number called. And it's happened with a handful of injuries over the course of the season, when Bush went down and Spillane had to step up, and he did. And I don't necessarily think that we're going to see the same level of maybe defensive statistical production. But if losing Bud Dupree is the one thing that's going to keep us from winning a Super Bowl, then we probably weren't going to win the Super Bowl anyway. So I think that we'll see what happens. But honestly, I feel worse for him than I do for the team, because of how great he was playing, and this being a contract year for him. It's just that's not something you want to see happen to a guy who's just a great dude and an amazing football player and athlete. So it's unfortunate and really sad, and it feels like another name to add to the list of 1 million people who have gone down with a torn ACL this season. But I think the Steelers will be fine, but we'll see.
That's my giant cat.
Yeah, it is a giant cat. No wonder they need their own room. Oh my gosh.
Perfectly said, Jordan. Yeah. Excellent points. I 100% with you on all of them, and well said. It's going to come down now to next men up, which looks like Adeniji and Highsmith coming on. And fortunately, the Steelers were able to find and draft Highsmith. I remember during the draft, I'm with you, Steeler Nation. It was like, who's this guy out of Charlotte, UNC Charlotte? And until I reviewed his film, went back and checked him out. I mean, he is really a high motor guy, just like Watt. And he's athletic. He already had that really nice climbing the ladder interception against Lamar Jackson in that first game against the Ravens. And that was a big part of us winning that game. So I'm excited to see what he can do having the ball a little bit more. I know he had a nice tackle for loss too in the previous game, not this past Ravens game, but the previous game. He had a good TFL in the backfield on a running back. So, is he Bud Dupree? No, nobody has that quick twitch and that elite speed that Bud Dupree really has coming off of that edge. And really, he's just done such a great job, not only rushing the passer, but setting the edge in the running game. It's a 2-man job, it sounds like, and they're going to be utilizing both guys to try to get the best out of each of them for setting that edge against the run and for rushing the passer and getting pressure in the passing game. So, I mean, my heart aches for Bud Dupree, but also as a Steeler fan, my heart is excited to see what Highsmith and Ola can do as well, because Ola's put together some good films the previous couple training camps, and just from what we saw in limited action. And I'm surprised. I don't know if you're as surprised as I am, Jordan, but it's rare when you already had a guy that was taking a lot of snaps like Ola was, and then we get into the season, and then you start seeing his snaps diminish and Highsmith snaps, being a rookie who's not going to be a starter, who wasn't even looking to be a starter, but he's kind of like shown that he can do this. He was kind of like the backup swing guy. So they just throw him in whenever like Bud needed a rest or Watt was going to get a breather. They just kind of threw him in either spot. So I'm really excited to see what he can do on a full-time basis. Like Spillane, I had no idea what he could do. And he right out of the box getting a pick six. I mean, it's just like, hey, thank you. Welcome to the team. But this is uncharted territory. We don't know what's going on with Nelson either yet. So, it's something that we got to keep an eye on. I just wanted to mention too, that with the 17 TFLs and the 11 sacks, TJ Watt leads the league in both categories. He's also now the defensive player of the month.
Rightly so.
Yep. And he passed Aaron Smith for number 8 all time on sacks for the Steelers.
Wow.
So
good for that guy.
Good kudos to that guy. He's just killing it. The Steelers also held the Ravens to under 100 yards passing. Now, I'm surprised because I didn't think that they were going to do it with RG3. I think personally that RG3 is a better throwing passing quarterback than Lamar Jackson.
Agree.
He did an excellent job with his legs, I felt, in that game. But they did a good job at least corralling the passing game outside of that one pass that Trace McSorley hit Hollywood Brown on.
Yeah.
Which was a great play. I can't fault them for making that play. I can't take that play out of the stats. Just because a lot of people say, well, if you take that play out of the stats, he only had 8 yards. It's like, but he made the play.
Yeah.
He made a fantastic play.
That's a ridiculous argument.
Yeah. So I can't fault them on that, but the Steelers did a great job against the pass. They didn't, of course, the pick six with Hayden as well was something we definitely have to mention. And, it was a hard fought game. And on the ground too, this is a team that killed us for 280 yards the last time. To hold them to right around 120 and change, yes. It means that
take what you can get.
Yeah. It means they're right around 200 yards of total offense. So that is Steelers are going to win this. If they're going to win a Super Bowl, it's going to be with their defense, their defensive scheme, and with the ball control pass attack by Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep. And just to briefly touch on that interception that Joe Hayden had, I thought it was Minkah Fitzpatrick at first because of how dialed into the ball he was.
Yes.
I didn't know who it was until I saw his numbers, and I really thought it was Minkah because it just seemed like that intuition carried him right into the lane.
Well, he almost had his one a little bit later on in the game, Jordan.
He did.
He ended up jumping that route. I thought for sure he was going to be taken off with it, and he dropped it. But
yeah,
you're right. That was
close.
That robber route read that he was supposed to take the number 2 receiver if he cut out, and Joe Hayden ran off his guy. Ball came on the out, and he was taken off. It was a gorgeous catch and run. I mean, he almost kind of fell on his own as soon as he caught it, collected himself, and then made it to the end zone. So it was just at least for Wednesday football, that was the probably loudest I cheered all game.
Same. I was out of my seat. I was so excited.
And looking at the injuries and how we're looking coming down the stretch, Tuitt and Hawkins have a chance of playing the game on Monday. Butler says he's expecting to have Tuitt, which means it sounds like he might be kind of feeling better right now. So if he's 3 days removed from having symptoms and he tests negative, he's going to be playing on Monday. So that would be a big person. And he wouldn't have been able to play on Sunday, which is great. That extra day gives he and Hawkins a chance to come back, and possibly Connor as well. Pouncey is definitely out because he tested right before the game on Wednesday, but he'd be eligible for the following game if he's symptom-free. Injury-wise, obviously we unfortunately lost Bud Dupree for the year with that knee. He's already on injured reserve. They called up Antoine Brooks as the lateral move, so he's on the roster. Every single Steeler draft pick is rostered this year. That hasn't happened in a long time. So
Carlos Davis is on the roster?
Yeah, I believe.
Good for him.
He's been rostered for quite a few weeks. I don't know if we dropped him back down. I'll check that in a second, but he had been rostered earlier.
Yeah, he's up.
Yep. Okay.
Good for him.
Yep. So everybody is rostered that was drafted. Jalen Samuels is still nursing his quad. They came out with the virtual practice from yesterday and said that he would have been limited had they had practice. We'll see today how he does. Steven Nelson also getting an MRI on his knee is concerning.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't miss any time in the game. I watched the game. I didn't see a spot where he could have gotten hurt. I'm hoping it's just swelling or discomfort and they're checking it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, worst case scenario, it's nothing. Or worst case scenario, maybe it's orthoscopic. You might miss a couple weeks. Best case scenario is, it's, oh my gosh. Sorry, I got a phone call there while I was while everything else is going
Love
on.
it.
Yeah, but best case scenario is it's nothing and he can come back and practice hopefully by the end of the week and be ready for the game. I'm just happy with the depth of this defense. Now, I'm still fine with Sutton coming in, being able to help out on the edge. And if not, Justin Lane is showing he can hold down the edge as well in the times that he's gotten on field.
Yeah, and he's looked really good on special teams as well.
Yeah.
I've liked watching him on that side of the ball because he really does give a great effort every down.
Oh, in game balls we forgot to do. Who is your offensive game ball from this game, Jordan?
I have to give it to the whole offensive line because with Pouncey out and then with Okorafor going out, they had to call up some guys and they stepped in, and with the exception of a couple plays where there was some pressure on Ben, they no sacks. They kept him protected, and that's all that matters. And they looked solid, and that's really all you can ask for guys who are stepping in last minute.
And that's well said too. I really liked Kevin Dotson's role as well. They brought out Dotson to play left guard for the plays that Okorafor missed because they moved Filer from left guard to right tackle while Okorafor was out. And then once Okorafor came back in, they swapped them back. But then Dotson came back out on the field for tackle eligible extra tackle plays. So they didn't go to one of their tackles in the depth chart. They went with Dotson, a guard, to come out for the extra tackle to play wide. So, it seems like this guy's just about ready to do anything to help out this team. And, I want to see if his brother, when I interviewed him, I asked him, how is your snapping? Have you snapped the ball? And he said, well, the Steelers talked to me and they told me to start snapping and see what I can do. And he says, I got an advantage because my brother was the center in high school right next to me. So my brother was my coach, and he and I snapped the ball a ton this offseason. So it'll be interesting to see if he ever gets into a center situation, but at least, that's something else and an option where maybe moving forward, maybe he becomes a center as opposed to becoming a guard. But it seems like he can do just about anything.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
I love to see it. And it really speaks volumes of the amount of confidence that the coaching staff has in him, that they just toss him wherever they have a need. Yeah.
And my offensive game ball goes to Eric Ebron. He led the team in receiving yardage this past game. He had some huge catches early in the game to keep the chains moving and to get us into a situation to be successful, and started, really set the tone. I thought this was at least his toughest game, where he was really churning out some tough yardage and contested catches. Yeah, he had a couple drops, but I at least want to give him credit. Everybody seemed like had the dropsies that game. But defensive side of the football, then, who gets your game ball?
Joe Hayden, for sure.
Boom.
Without that pick six, the whole game could be totally different. And
you're right.
He just the vision that he had to know exactly where that ball was going to be, but he didn't give away his own position. He just great play. Loved it.
And my game ball goes to TJ Watt, defensive player of the month, player of the game, 2 sacks. I mean, he's in another tackle for a loss. The guy knows what he's doing and just makes splash plays every game. Doesn't matter what it is.
Excellent.
He's doing it. So we mentioned too that the Steelers now, they're number 2 in the league in time of possession. But over the last 3 weeks, they're still number 2 in the league in time of possession, even without a running game. But the number 1 team is the team we're going to be facing, the Washington football
Ooh.
whatevers. The team
Yeah.
formerly known as Washington Potomac Raiders, whoever they are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so confusing.
It
I
is.
have a hard time keeping it straight in my brain.
People kept like abbreviating the WFT, and I had no idea what it meant. I'm like, what is
I know, it
WFT?
still throws me
It took,
off.
yeah, it took me a while. Like, then again, I've lived in the Washington D.C. area for decades, and I just figured out what like HTTR meant, you know, about 2 years ago, or 2 years ago, and that was hail to the old team name that they had, and now it's.
Oh.
But that was what all their fans would, or the Washington fans would throw up hashtag HTTR. But now it's, you know,
Yeah.
WTF or WFT or whatever they want to throw
Yeah,
up at you.
FT, I think. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Oh my
but
gosh.
honestly, at least though, this game is going to be a different kind of battle for the Steelers, because the Steelers
Mhm.
obviously are number 1 in sacks. Turns out that Washington Redskins are number 3 in the league in sacks. So they know how to get pressure. They've got an excellent front seven.
Oh my
And
goodness, Chase Young terrifies me.
oh gosh.
Ah.
So this is going to be a real test for the offensive line and this fast pass attack, because
Mhm.
that's what we've made for this fast pass attack, is to counter these really, really good defensive lines that are going to be coming in and getting pressure on your quarterback, and that's getting that ball out in 2 seconds. Is stops them from being able to get to you in 2.5 to 3.
Mhm.
So this is going to be the ultimate chess match to see if this style of football offensively, with Ben Roethlisberger getting the ball out quickly, can counter this massive pass rush against what's going to be the toughest. This is the toughest pass rush we've seen since the Eagles. Eagles are actually number 2 in the league, and both teams in the NFC East. I don't know if it's because the Giants and Cowboys are really bad, and they
Yeah.
just rack up sacks against them. But it's you can't credit. You're saying Chase Young is an excellent pass rusher, and you know they are legitimately, like, I watch the team, and I think they have an excellent front seven.
They do. And I think that their entire team is significantly better than their 4-7 record
Yes.
imply. And I think even from a morale standpoint, having Alex Smith come back after that ridiculous injury, I think that really has the whole team just kind of playing on a different level mentally. And yeah, their defense is really solid. And with Pouncey still being out and Okorafor potentially being out,
Yeah.
it's going to really require that our offensive line step up in a big way, because the Ravens have an excellent defense.
Mm.
But I think that Washington's right up there with them,
It
with
is.
that front seven. And it'll be interesting for sure. And I know that even there in the very limited amount of footage I've seen of him, their running back, JD McKissick, looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think that even our defense is going to have to really step up with Bud being out.
Yeah.
And Tuitt hopefully being back will
Yes. That would help out tremendously.
really solidify that line. But
Mm.
I think that this is going to be another one of those, maybe not shootouts, but back and forth, maybe stalemate even. I feel like we're going to see a lot of 4 and out, 3 and out, and just kind of handing the ball back. I don't know. I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of kind of, I'll give it to you, you give it right back,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Low scoring defensive
Yeah.
football. I could see this being a defensive football game as well. Just a quick point. Okorafor is not listed on the injury report. He did come back to the game. He wasn't listed on the injury report yesterday, so it looks like he is fine.
Oh, good. Great.
So no
Okay.
issues, at least for the Okorafor aspect. But going back to the Washington Football Club, they've got they've won their last 2 games. They beat the Bengals big 20-9, and then they just killed the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And, which was probably the only entertaining game to me, just because I want to see the Cowboys lose on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, so fun.
And they clobbered 41-16. I mean, it was much closer until the end of the fourth quarter when they scored 2-3 times there. And, 2 times in 8 seconds. I think I went out to walk the dog and I came back and how'd they score 14 points?
Crazy.
So it's, yeah. So it's just amazing to see that. So they can be dangerous. They've got a good quarterback back again. The only problem I don't want to have is us rushing, Alex Smith. We have a really good pass rush. This guy's coming off what would have been a career-ending injury off of getting hit in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm kind of apprehensive for him going into this game because he knows he has to get that ball out quickly, or at least rely on his running backs to carry the offense to keep the Steelers from climbing all over him, because he is a pocket quarterback. He's not going to run anymore. He is strictly a pocket quarterback now with his reconstructed leg.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be okay. But I also don't want the Steelers to, take it too far the other direction where they're afraid to breathe on him because of the situation that he's just coming out of. But it'll be interesting because he's not really a scrambler, but it'll be a good matchup, I think.
It will. And now it's time for the podcast for questions from Steeler Nation. Twitter, if you got any questions, you can throw it up here. I'll answer some. Facebook, we'll be grabbing some from you as well. First one's going to be coming from SteelerNation.com forum. Matt Insomniac wants to say, obviously they will just go with Highsmith, but in case they want to bring in a veteran pass rusher as insurance, do these names intrigue you? Cameron Wake, Terrell Suggs, Clay Matthews. I will add James Harrison. How do you feel about any of these names for possible depth replacements to Bud Dupree?
I really don't know, because I know that this is hypothetical, and we're talking about it as a hypothetical.
Yes.
And I know that the Steelers aren't going to go after any of them, which I think is the right decision. But I think the only name that kind of intrigues me is Clay Matthews, because he had the least amount of drop off kind of at the tail end there. James Harrison played trash as his career went further on.
And 2 sacks in a year, whereas you're right, Clay had 8 in his last year. So
that's the only name that I'd be like, no, maybe, but I don't think it adds what we need, which is somebody who can rush the quarterback, but speed, that level of speed. And just the older you get, you tend to slow down. And I would not want to see James Harrison come back. Not even a hypothetical.
No. He was a bad locker room element and did not help out even afterwards, laughing at Mike Tomlin's press conference with Antonio Brown on social media. I washed my hands with the guy at that point. I mean, he's great for, sports casting, but I don't want him back in the locker room.
Nope.
But should the Steelers bring anybody back, the veteran cost, minimum cost for any of those guys is going to be at $100.05 million, and that prorates for 5 games being $328,000. So very cost effective to bring somebody in should they decide to do so. That's just the money aspect of it if they think about that. So here's a good question for you. So after missing the playoffs the last 2 years, why doesn't it feel like Steeler Nation as a fan base is very excited or happy about this team making the playoffs?
I think it's just in our nature as Steelers fans to always find something to critique.
Yeah.
That's probably the nicest way I can say it. I am not sure. For me, at least, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I'm a little apprehensive because the last couple seasons, even last year with Mason and Duck and that circus that we had going on, there was a brief moment of time where it looked like we could potentially get into the playoffs in a wild card spot.
Yeah.
And I got my hopes up. And then they were very quickly dashed. And I think for me, I do have to remind myself they're 11-0. Just be happy about it. Be happy about it. Be happy about the fact that they could clinch a playoff spot. But I'm also trying to not get too hopeful, because my immediate thought after that is, well, they haven't clinched a playoff spot yet, and there's still 5 games left. So 6 games.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 6
No,
games.
5. You're right. 5 left, because we are
no.
11
Oh my
and 0.
goodness, math.
Yes,
Math.
they're
Really.
I know it gets confusing having 17 weeks, but 16 games played.
Yep.
So far, then next year it's going
yeah.
to screw up. I think they add an extra game next year.
So,
but
stop changing things.
you know, Steeler fans, they expect to make the playoffs. I think that's probably why they aren't super excited about the playoffs yet. They still haven't clinched, which is weird, because like 11-0, you think you usually clinch your division by that point. We obviously made it so Baltimore can't win, but I think if we win and Cleveland loses, I think that might be another clinch. But that would depend on what Cleveland happens this week. Another question from Cooley Man says, how different would the discussion have been if Lamar Jackson had made the pass to Washington to pick up that first down late in the fourth quarter, or if it was Patrick Mahomes, Rodgers, or Breeze? And I am 100% with the guy there. Actually, Jordan, I've got a video breakdown.
Oh, yes.
Video breakdown, sharing the screen. So going in on this play specifically, thrown Chris Collins worthless, called it a lollipop by Ben. And the point is, he just lamented the fact that the Ravens couldn't make a play on this ball. But when you actually watch this play, you get to see that Ben actually threw it in the ball where only Washington's hands could get to it. So let's watch this play as it comes, coming across the middle. The over Skycam will start zooming in. And I need to pull it back. I know they're going to show a replay on it here. Here is the super slow-mo. Only his hands on the ball. The guy behind him is in trail position trying to come up, and now gets to the point where he can make a play on the ball, a good, step ahead of where that ball was. It was a perfectly thrown ball by Ben Roethlisberger. Any other quarterback, I'm with you, Cooley Man. Any other quarterback, if that was Drew Brees, that was Aaron Rodgers, the announcers would say, look at that ball threading that needle between three defenders. That's a gunslinger out there doing that play, making the play to win the game for his team. And that's all Ben Roethlisberger does, and just getting zero credit for it. Hey, I'm fine. I don't think Ben cares about getting credit for anything at all at this point. He's already got 2 Super Bowls. He knows how to win Super Bowls. He knows he's playing well. You know, to me, it sucks that he didn't get their notoriety for it. And it's kind of like a backhanded way to view our team on a national spotlight. But honestly, Ben should have gotten the kudos on that throw, because it was through to 3 defenders. Nobody else had a play on the ball. Fortunately, Washington came up toward the football as well with his hands to make sure that he could use his body, which was why he was drafted. That big linebacker type, big build, where he can keep his body and use that to shield off anybody coming behind him.
It was a beautiful throw. And I think that we here in Pittsburgh and all of the Steelers fan base give Ben more than enough recognition. We make up for the lack of national attention on him. And it does piss me off sometimes, because I think, what is so hard about acknowledging when a guy is playing well? Why? Why do you have to let the fact that you don't like him impact the way that you talk about his game? But then I think it's kind of nice that it feels like he's our own special little secret that nobody else will ever really appreciate him for how great he is outside of our unit of fans. And that's fine with me, because it's the Pittsburgh way to kind of overcome lack of expectations or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm getting some messages up here on Twitterverse coming in. They're saying I'm trying to grow my beard. I should start growing it out like Kiesel. I will do my best to do a Kiesel beard. That guy was insane how well he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Asking too, quick question: who of Bud, Connor, and Juju stays? And that, I'm assuming you're asking about free agency there, and Duncan. And for me, it would be right now, hands down, Juju's probably is. If you're going to keep one out of those three, it's Juju. Unfortunately, we knew Bud Dupree was going to cost too much. He was kind of like on the way out. It's why we drafted Highsmith and probably looking to draft somebody high to the upcoming draft. And Connor's replaceable. I mean, I think he's a great running back. I think he's very diverse and does everything well and has the best stiff arm on the team and is easily one of the best receivers out of the backfield that we have.
Yeah.
But, you know, when it comes down to having to pay somebody to keep him, Juju's a team leader. He's great in the community. He does all the right stuff. He's a leader in the locker room right now, says all the right things. I mean, he's what you want to reward for a wide receiver on their second contract, in my opinion. And that type of mindset could go a lot farther to keeping that entire wide receiver room focused. And you need a focused room with the amount of time that they're seeing footballs from Ben Roethlisberger.
For sure.
Drink Iron City always has great questions for us here at the end. And he was asking, how's it going to look if are the Ravens going to get fined? Are they going to get, any punishment? I'm expecting big punishment for this past occurrence for COVID, because not only the Steelers did the NFL lose out on prime time Thanksgiving Day money, which is the highest rated football game regular season of the year. Maybe the Christmas game might be up there too, but definitely prime time on Thanksgiving. You got a captive audience. That game was lost. The following Thursday game was lost. 2 primetime game Thursdays. So that alone is going to warrant some good punishment, definitely financial, but I honestly think it should warrant some draft picks. If not one, low draft pick, to at least show that, hey, we're serious now. If you guys can't keep your stuff in order, and that's just a guy in the weight room that the conditioning coach just felt that he didn't need to follow the rules and guidelines of the NFL personally and put that entire team and the NFL at risk.
It was pure negligence. Yeah. And I have a hard time believing that no one else in the organization knew that he was doing that.
Yeah.
And
obviously, you don't walk into the weight room and see somebody without a mask on and not say something to him.
Yeah.
Or say something to somebody else. Yeah.
And to knowingly hide your symptoms. This is.
Yes. Yeah.
Just unbelievable and egregious. And I think that with how quick the NFL was to dole out fines for coaches so much as removing their masks for a second on the sideline.
Yeah.
There needs to be some swift hammer of justice so that other teams know that they can't just do this crap and get away with it.
Yeah.
And not have to experience the consequences. This protocol was put in place so that stuff like this could be avoided. And because this virus moves so quickly and uncontrollably, you can't be doing stuff like that and have it affect the entire league for weeks and just not have to suffer the consequences.
Yes. And DIC also asks us, 3 games in 12 games, can't remember this occurrence ever. And actually anytime you're playing a Thursday game, it's usually in a 12-day window where you play a Sunday following Thursday. That's 12 days. So yes, it normally occurs, but this is one of the first times where you play in that 12-game window and then you don't have a week and a half off. So Steelers are going like right in on well, not on a short week, but once they get regulated past this Monday game and the Sunday game prior, they're just another 7 days is the next game. They don't have 10 days off to get that extra mini bye to get healthy. And this is it. Steelers are full bore now until the end of the playoffs, unless they get the number 1 seed or they can rest starters, because hopefully KC drops one and Steelers keep winning. So we'll see how that works out. And 3 games. That's pretty much everything we've got here. What do we have on Facebook for questions? And while you're looking that up, Duncan asked, does Hilton stick around? I hope to hell Hilton sticks around. Hilton's one of my absolute favorite people playing defense on this team. I think he's very diverse. He's like a linebacker in the run game. Even though he's 5'9", he can tackle, and he can rush the passer better than any of our other cornerbacks or secondary people. You really want to have that type of player, and he's a complementary player. He's up also with Sutton. Sutton's also up, and they both give their strengths and weaknesses. To tell you the truth, Sutton's is more coverage based. He's starting to do better in the running attack, but he does not have the skill that Mike Hilton has of breaking tackles, sliding between tackles, sliding between two tackles on screen passes to make plays on the screen passes in the backfield. That's the stuff that Hilton does. You know, Sutton makes the plays in the air. Hilton's making plays on the ground. So it's a tough decision. I would love to have him back. Fortunately, he's a nickel corner. Nickel corners don't get huge money the way outside corners get, but Steelers are so tight against it. They've got to keep one of them. And if you have to keep one of them, gosh, that's a tough decision even for me to make. My heart wants to keep Hilton, but Sutton is also very diverse in being able to play safety and the dime packages. It's a lose-lose situation no matter how you're going to slice that one, Duncan. And really hope they can find a way to keep them both.
That would be ideal for sure.
And you found anything there on Facebook?
Yep. One question comes from Tony Oakleaf. It's interesting.
Tony.
I have two answers, but
okay, great.
I'll read the question. Of the last remaining games, which would you prefer to lose before going into the playoffs?
Mine would be the Cleveland game. And I'll tell you why. And my reasoning for the Cleveland game is because if we're going to lose that game, it's at the point where I feel that this might be an undefeated team going into the last week of the season, and we may rest starters in the Cleveland game. And we may lose the game because of it. And I personally wouldn't be upset. I know Steeler Nation would lose their minds if we lose being an undefeated team the last week of the season because Tomlin decides to rest starters. But it is the right move to be ready for the playoffs with only one team getting a bye. And even the Steelers, no matter what, we're going to have either the 1 or the 2 seed. So going into that Cleveland game, we're probably going to know if we need to win to get the 1 seed or not. And if we don't need to win to get the 1 seed, or we're already locked out and we're going to be the 2 seed, rest starters. Lose that game. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Your thoughts? You have any different thoughts on that?
So, yes, I do have a different answer. Honestly, I would prefer to lose no games because I don't like watching the Steelers lose.
Me neither.
If we have to lose, if we know for sure there's one game we're losing, my preference would be to lose this game against Washington because it's an NFC matchup or a matchup against a team in the NFC from the worst division in the NFC. And I don't want to lose to Phillip Rivers because not a big fan.
I can't stand
and I just don't want to. Yeah, I want Ben to be able to say that he beat the only other remaining quarterback from his draft class. And first round. And I don't want to lose to the Bills because that is going to have probably playoff implications because they're playing so well. And I just don't want to lose to Cleveland. I don't like the Browns. And even if we do rest our starters, I don't ever want to have them be able to say that they beat us. So that's my thought behind it. I would rather lose to an NFC team than anybody in the AFC whenever everything is so close over in the AFC.
That's perfect. And that's the way, because even losing to Washington, if the Steelers win out, they're the number 1 seed no matter what. And you're right. That's the way tie breaks go. Another question there?
That was the only one, actually.
Oh, wow. It's been quiet on Facebook today. Usually we have Anthony Laird up too, but Anthony, hope you're doing well. See you probably next week on the podcast, but I know this is a tough day, us being on a Friday when normally we do Tuesdays, which we will be back next Tuesday, 2:00 on the podcast. It may be Jordan. It may be Hunter. We never know.
Who knows?
We never know what's going to go on, but it's definitely going to be me, and I will be there on the podcast next Tuesday. So, Jordan, thank you very, very much for joining us on the show, lending your talents and your well-thought-out arguments to Steeler Nation for the best podcast, in my opinion, for Steeler fans. And anybody wants to follow Jordan, please, social media, Twitter and Instagram at fidgenewton.com. That's FIDGENEWTON. Sorry, it's at Fidgenewton. There's no .com about it. It's not a website. I was going off my memory. I have your handle memorized. So there you
nice.
go.
But thank you for having me. I always love whenever I can hop on and chat with you.
You're very, very welcome. And I know I will be having you back again soon.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it already.
Cool. See you soon. Thanks, Jordan.
See ya. Bye.
Steeler Nation, visit our title sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, on Twitter to be part of their signed merch giveaways done every week at Total Sports ENT. Jump on their website right now for 45% off the entire site at www.tseshop.com. You too can get great unique gifts on the SteelerNation.com gear page, like this awesome shirt I have on today, Steeler Nation. Established 1933. Just go on over, click on the gear page, click on the apparel page. Evidently, we have 2 buttons that you can get to it. So click there, find some great shirts. They make awesome gifts. They're nice and soft. I love the feel of these. This fits me well. Good cuts. SteelerNation.com gear page. Get yourself all geared up for the ultimate tailgate and hopefully toward a Super Bowl this year, because that would be the greatest gift of all. SteelerNation.com is the best site for fast, unique Steelers content on the internet. Click the podcast button to listen to one of our many interviews, or click the forum button for the best football discussion on the web. Subscribe to SteelerNation.com on YouTube, which this will be replayed on YouTube as well. And to be the first to know about our video uploads, www.youtube.com/C/SteelerNation. Tweet us at Steeler Nation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the Steeler Nation podcast on Twitter at _SN podcast, which you're doing right here. Thank you very much, Steeler Nation. Or on our Instagram at Steeler Nation podcast, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SN_Stryker, Stryker spelled with a Y. Thanks for joining us again for the SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, with Jordan DiFigio, rooting along with you as always. Go Steelers!